Hi. I understand that you smell coffee and tea. I hope that we will be quite brief. But I invite Anton Malyshev, the Executive Director of Film Fund, Yelena Brodskaya, Vice President on Marketing of Walt Disney Russia, CIS. Yelena, please come here. Dmitry Nartov, the Director General of Kinemax Cinema Network, and Nikolai Larionov, the creative producer of Mars Media. Please climb into the chairs. The idea was to invite the representatives of key stakeholders of the market. And when we discussed what we are going to speak about, the easiest was to read the name of the conference. It is about the challenges and trends. And let's start with it, at least. Let's stop with problems. But there is another word, challenge. It is even in the Russian language called challenge. Let's speak about challenges. It is not always a problem. It is something we face and we should address to it and tackle it. It could lead to a problem, or we can solve it before it turns into a problem. What is the main challenge to the Russian film industry for 2-3 years? Anton, what do you think? So I was the last and now I'm the first. Well, what is demonstrated in the survey? The film industry started to breathe. It goes up. There are problems in exhibition, in distribution, in production. Still, the global challenge is to keep this positive trend, not to break the tools, the mechanisms which have been introduced, and not to introduce those which are ineffective. It is the most complicated. This is the main challenge to the industry as a whole.
And by the way, when this idea emerged of the film fund, we heard quite often that we should think of some scheme, of some idea, and we should live with it in order to make it stable. Then otherwise we may just change them one after another. Elena, what do you think? I think that this story is changing every day, because, for example, if you had asked me yesterday, my answer would have been different. And you see, everything is changing, and there are so many people who would like to live this active life. I believe that cinema is the most complicated story, because the main challenge is to discuss, to talk with each other, to find out some common ground, to support the positive trends. Because when it is really cool when this positive trend goes hand in hand with some other positive trends and not against the backdrop of some negative impacts. I believe that it is important to understand this. And I would like that we perceive this positive trend as something natural and not as a compensation to a negative. And in general, I believe that another challenge is to rise to this demographic issue. And because today there are so many opportunities for people, and there are so many factors that attract their attention, and our purpose is to keep their attention, to keep our audience, because I believe that it will influence how our industry will survive in 5 or 10 years. Thank you. But when you talk about these 50 to 54 years of the week, do you believe that it's not enough enough for the market, or what is wrong? I believe that actually the market is enough for 23 million people who go to cinemas, for our cinema goers, and for those 90 people who have real access to cinemas. And I feel that today we have so many films, some of them are so ambitious, but there should be something else that should attract people. Sometimes people just lack time. Dmitry, what do you think? What is the main challenge in your opinion? First of all, I'd like to thank Anton Malyshev and Film Fund for their work. And as I am an active user of this system and this mobile application, I'd like to mention that now I am analyzing the market, and I rely on their data, and what they do is really great job, and it influences positively the development of national cinema. However, when we discuss the role of a state in this development, I see that there are some threats for the market. When the state regulates the development of the national cinema, of course it is good, it's a good factor. When they incentivize, when they have provide some benefits, of course that is good. It is also very good when the cinema is getting more popular in more remote regions, and when the cinema is trying to get its 100% role in this industry. And nowadays it is very much unlikely, it is impossible. And sometimes some dishonest methods are used to come back to this market share, like for example barriers, artificial barriers, or some rate for cinema release certificates. Of course, this is a negative impact for development. All these dishonest methods, they impact badly. And I see that I know that we have to fulfill at least one initiative a year according to the presidential requirement, and unfortunately it may bring no good. I would say that we just do not need some help, but what is important is that nobody interferes. Of course, we will survive this year. Nikolai, and what do you think? What are the main challenges? First of all, I agree with Dmitry, and of course I cannot but mention this important breakthrough of a film fund. And the last slide was about sociology. Probably it is very costly to make all these analyses, but after some years, and we see that film producers, directors, they all analyze this information, and they know this system that provides this database, and this is really a reliable and very good system. Several years ago we were not aware that it would be possible, and now it is a part of our everyday experience. It is very cool. And there is an example for when an independent distributor on the Cannes market showed, for example, has a mobile application, and this mobile application that was created, and it was really very well appreciated, because this is a unique tool because it is not only a practical solution, but it also brings a lot of positive energy. As of challenges and problems, I believe that most of them are about the general economic challenges that our country has to rise to: the currency exchange rate, the salaries, the wages, and of course all this is important, and they will impact the cinema market. It is obvious already now. We are dependent also on the external factors, like a tragedy in Camera when there was a fire in the cinema, football cup, other events. And this year there were some film release, many films, Hollywood blockbusters, and they were oriented on the national market, and that is why they did not become a hype in our country. They did not become so popular, like, for example, Black Panther and other films. In America, they are very popular. They are record films in America, but on the Russian market, they are not at all. But the film about rich Asians, and there are some other films or projects that are America-oriented. These are exceptional films, and when they emerge and we see that the box office is lower than 500 million rubles, and this is a catastrophe for cinemas because they have so many costs and they have to be compensated, they have to be refunded, and if they are not, then in this case they have to face real problems. And if we combine it with general economic problems in our country, I believe that this is the main challenge that we have to rise to. Thank you very much. We have heard to 4 different people and find out 4 different challenges. Now let's look from a different side. And what do you think will be the main driver for the market? What can pedal the development of this market? And what should be strengthened for further development of our industry? So, what we can really rely on, or what is the idea that we should rely on? Is it technology development or involvement some younger or older audience? It's another discussion. It's another, by the way, it's another question whether we should attract more young people or more older, senior people. Well, Anton, what do you think about it? Actually, I do not have an answer. The question is so complicated because there are so many factors that should be taken into consideration. The portrait of a cinema goer has changed, and of course we should now probably pay attention to the films and focus on the films for adults, especially taking into consideration this pension reform. By the way, we also have the course of cinema mechanics who are older than 50. This should also be taken into consideration. I think that's relevant for all the issues. In cinema production, we see that numbers are growing, that the quality is growing, because there is possibility to improve skills and competences when implementing different projects. With every new project, you improve your competence. And this is the trend that will continue. I believe that probably the Ministry of Culture should also pay attention to it. And as for film exhibition, yeah, we've discussed minor towns. They are not that profitable. They do not bring much audience. Since they have emerged, they have sold 10 million tickets. That's not that many. But on the other hand, we do understand that every sold ticket, it is a brick in this huge blank wall. And we issue this brochure for cinemas in smaller, in minor towns in order to increase their literacy, to make them more competent. And we are very thankful to distributors who also try to help us. So I believe that the most important thing is to increase competences. As for minor towns, I believe that there is not precise target that should be achieved there. If it is to develop the culture of going to cinemas, then it is a social story. Then probably it should develop as it is naturally. On the other hand, if we want to make it a commercial segment and this 10 million sold tickets is not enough, then it's a different story. Of course, it is not a commercial story, not at all, because first of all, of course, it is a social program, and we should understand that these people, they are more vulnerable from the viewpoint of their possibility to attend the cinemas. And then, if we have more and more people in minor cities and minor towns who attend cinemas, then they may probably one day come to bigger city, then may go to study, to work in bigger cities, and they will go to the cinemas in bigger cities. They will have this culture. They will continue with this tradition. But on the other hand, I hope that they may probably stay in their minor towns and develop this trend in their minor towns. Okay, thank you very much. Lena, what do you think? What is the main thing that we should focus on? I think that we should continue in the same pattern, in this attendance experience. I believe that it is important not to disappoint people, because for some people it may be the first experience, and if it is a negative experience, then they just won't come anymore. And we asked the younger audience what would be the incentives for them to go to cinemas. And the answer was, if the exchange rate will become lower again, then, but that's kind of a joke, but if the second thing is that, for example, somebody comes to a cinema and they pay 102 or 300 rubles for this film, but what is important is that people should be satisfied with this experience. They should feel that they are protected, that they are comfortable, that there is no some noise that disturbs them from watching a film. It is important, and it is a responsibility only of a cinema. It is also the responsibility of a distributor. If, for example, you have had a wonderful experience, then of course you would like to reiterate it, you would like to repeat it once again. It is important. And of course we would like to get this positive experience more and more.
You're right saying that value should meet price. Or maybe the value is even a bit higher than the price level. It is like from when you receded from economy class to business class. It is not often, but it happens. I shouldn't name the airlines, which do it quite often. Is Pobeda? No, it is not Pobeda. Pobeda lets 2 extra kilos of luggage. What is your opinion, Dmitry? What should we stake on? I mean, both exhibition, distribution, even production. If you speak about a driver, I agree with my colleagues. It should be a combination of factors. The latest driver was digitalizing in 3D. When Avatar appeared, everybody rushed to the theaters. Everybody put new equipment, new 3D visualization in all screens. Then they refused from 3D in some rooms, but it was the driver, and it was supported by the majors, by producers. Nowadays, a key driver is the general service, which is provided in the theaters, and it should meet the level of life of the minor towns or of the capital, where the competence between theaters is high. The choice is big, and one can choose between different screens. The location and the unique technology play important role in choosing a theater. Thank you. Nikolai, what is your opinion? Let me continue these ideas. Speaking about 1-2 years, it is evident that there is an external driver. This is the growth of broadcasters in film production and its promotion, like VGT-RK holding designed co-production model and promotion in exhibition, and all the films with the revenues of 600 million rubles. These were by Первый Канал or VGT-RK, with the audience of 40 years. For this audience we need great support, information support, ads, and there are growth points. There should be more support from other broadcasters, from STS, from TNT. It comes together with producing companies. The success with the revenues of over 1 billion, it is the efforts of the company. It's the Last Warrior participated in the so the Last Warrior was made with the participation of the VGT-RK, and another Gogol gained 1.5 billion rubles for 3 episodes. It is quite a good result, and nobody could predict it a year before, when they started this trilogy. The broadcasters, the series, draw attention of the viewers from the cinemas. And to overcome this information barrier, a lot of series, a lot of TV series, the broadcasters should on their own make efforts to advertise the films which are shown in the theaters. And I go on with the idea of Anton. It is not about event showing, but it is the quality. The driver is the rise of quality, the rise of competence by producers, the development of talent of the cameraman, of directors. We see that Gogol, the eyes, the 3 seconds, the Sobibor, these are the films which were successful because of combination of these factors. If we have more support to the people who start their career, it will be much better. The situation will be much better. I think that what Moscow Cinema School does, it is in fact the support of growth. Are there any questions? We have time for one or two questions, not about gender equality. I would like to add about gender equality in mass media. Oksana Karas produced a film. In October, Daria Gortsevich wrote a script. Olga Zueva, Nastya Palchikova. These are the ladies who had different film products. So in mass media we pay much attention. Okay. Who thinks that there is the problem of gender inequality in Russia? That women cannot become camera women, or I mean in Russian industry, Russian film industry. Who thinks that is a problem? 4 persons. So there are special cameras for ladies. They are lighter. There is Ksenia Serida, she's very bright. And among the directors in Kino Tower there was 50 proportion. And I think that in our art house everything is good with gender equality. I think the more ladies work in our industry, the better is for us, for men. I think that that technologies allow us a lot. You should not lift something heavy. And as for my vision of development of film industry within audiovisual industry, I think that ladies have good perspectives. I think that women are proactive, more successful. Yes, they even go to the cinema more often. They initiate their drivers. So we should take care of the ladies. And what my colleague said about the development of broadcasters like STS and TNT, it is more about, it is like a threat, because all that stuff on TV, it doesn't leave time for an average viewer to go to the cinema. And everyone introduced this service of you pay money for a TV series or for a series of a film, which you can see earlier than there is a release. The audience is older, notwithstanding the demographic gap you write about. It will be good for us, because people who got used to go to cinema are elder. The directors, the cameramen know how to make a good film. The majors finance Russian films which gain 1.5 billions. And but as for TV, the decrease of the window, the development of VOD services, when we can see everything online, this is a negative trend. Is it a challenge, this creative? As for the development of qualification of the film engineer, it is an old thing, because the technologies which exist now, they push this profession away, this job away. Coming back to the challenges, the development or the creation of a content is also a challenge. I mean that the content which cannot be shown on TV is 9D or something else. People came to the 3 seconds though nobody switched off TV. But still people prefer. I believe that if there's the reason is for the success of 3 seconds is advertisement. Central partnership, and the first week was not very successful. The second was also not very successful. First, on the third week, people came to the cinema to see the 3 seconds, and it is about how we make the Christmas and New Year's time. There is like a cannibalization of by one film of another. We know what will happen, and there is like a battle. The Russian films will gain more, the cinemas will gain less, the cinemas will not get box office which they planned to get, but the Russian cinematography will get. We suggested that the cinemas and cinema companies make their own schedule. What is the idea of the cinema companies? Thank you. Any questions? Maybe one from the audience. One question from the audience. No? Hello, Leonid Shubkin, ProLine Film. You speak about challenge. There is one aspect which was discussed, but nobody said here. There is a lack of possibilities for private money be involved or go into the film production. The film fund and the Ministry of Culture doesn't have enough money to support all the ideas. Maybe you can tell something about it, and where should we go with our money to support the film production, if you think that the private money is very important.
So the question is clear. I believe that private capital has so much negative experience and has had much negative experience in recent 10 years, and I believe that if there are more examples when producers say that, for example, on previous film I spent 100 million and I earned 1 billion, then of course any investor will invite and will have positive reaction to this event, of course. So I believe that now the environment among investors is quite favorable. Because now we have all witnessed that Russian films can be successful, and now it should become a systematic success. Then in this case it will change the trend and we'll have more private capital, because just with the ministry and with the cinema fund we will not be capable of doing much. Thank you very much, that was a very good question. And did you ask about cinema production or cinema exhibition? I meant that private capital today has not enough levers. They do not have some tax exemptions. They do not have incentives to get involved. And if you have just one example that one film was very successful, I believe that for motivation that is definitely not enough. And this is a very important factor, to my opinion, that we must have touched upon. We should think whom should we attract. On the other hand, today Sergei Silyanov shared his experience. He said that for 1 ruble from the cinema fund, we have 2 rubles of private investment. I believe that in our economic system to have 60% of private investment is very much unlikely. We are unlikely to have more. Then in this case, the function of cinema fund as a driver of this process. It's okay. So, and Nikolai agrees, yes, cinema, it is a risky business. On the other hand, we may believe that probably we do not have enough infrastructure institutions like insurance, for example, or transparency of cinema production, so that we have completion bond and insurance system. And the main problem is in producers, because actually everybody understands that if information would be transparent, this would change the situation significantly. And of course, not any reasonable investor would invest if there is something suspicious in a project, if there is so much risk without no transparency at all. And I believe that it is the main problem. As for tax exemptions, we should probably think about it. We should probably think of some tax incentives. I do not have any ideas. What could be any other benefits? What should be fiscal benefits for cinema production so that it attracts a lot of investment, for example, as of the 1st of January? What should be this? What should be these incentives? I can see very well Dinia. I believe that transparency influences very positively, and all the films that are created with the Ministry of Culture, with the Cinema Foundation, they are quite successful. Yes, we are moving towards this direction. I have always supported this EAOE system. Yes, and transparency, it is a key factor. I have always agreed with it. I have never criticized it, actually. There are some questions to procedures, but this is our kitchen, as we call it. So actually, I do not understand exactly what the question is about. In ideal situation, if, for example, a producer didn't get money from the Ministry of Culture, he or she may apply to an investor to ask him to invest. And in this case, there should be some tax exemption. Yes, that is right, definitely. That would be a good solution. But what? Exemption of what tax? We are all adult people. For example, tax on profit from tax distribution or what? It depends on the producer's talent. Yeah, you know, there is a famous book, Hollywood Economy, and they explain in this book why some films are successful, others are not. It's a producer's talent. If a producer is a good or a bad economist, actually. Do you really want to come back to the 90s? Do you remember there was the first law about the cinema when the money for the cinema production had a tax exemption from the profit? Yes, of course there was some negative practice, I do understand. It is like the Russian Orthodox Church and the import of cigarettes. Okay, thank you very much, all the participants. Thanks a lot. And now I'm happy to invite all of you to the buffet and to continue this discussion in private. Thank you very much for your attention and your attendance.